Okay, so today we will be talking about simple machines. زين. What do they mean by simple machines? They mean يعني the efficiency or the mechanical advantages of machine. What do they mean by that? When يوم يتكلمون عن simple machines, they just mean that you have a specific input in any sort of machine. زين. And you will get an output of it. Usually it will be a small input and it will give you a much larger output. This is the whole idea. يعني أبسط مثال when you are using a wrench or something. Then, sorry for the terrible drawing, but we are applying a torque here which is very small. Yani the force that we are applying is very small, but because the distance is large, the torque that is being applied becomes larger with distance. طبعا if you try to close it from here you'll require much more force. عشان كذا لو احنا بصبعنا نحاول نبطله ما نقدر لأن we don't have enough torque. ما في لقوة. ولكن we take advantage of a simple machine. In this case, we're talking about a simple tool where we are putting a small amount of input, but the actual output of torque on this is much larger. And then this is the whole idea of mechanical advantage when they talk about it in simple machines. Let's go directly into it. And then let's start directly by solving questions, and I will explain as I go while solving questions about everything. Okay? So if we look at question 1 from the worksheet, in a simple lifting machine, a load of 1400 newtons is lifted. All right, so when we're talking about load, I'm going to label my load as W. So W is my load of 1400 newtons, is lifted by a 50 Newton effort. يعني the effort that has been put, اللي هو بما معناه the input of ours is 50 newtons. All right, while the load moves up by 0.2 meters, يعني the load that will be affected will have a distance covered, I'll call it SW, of 0.2 meters. The effort moves, يعني how much I am inputting, basically the movement of me, is gonna be 6 meters. زين. So usually here when we are talking about load, we label it with W and effort E. Sometimes you might see this as L, sometimes you might see E as P. It depends on a lot of different ways, but usually this is how I write it down. زين. So the first thing they want us to calculate is MA. What do they mean by MA? So MA simply means mechanical advantage. زين. And the calculation of mechanical advantage is going to be equal to the load over, it is a ratio of the load over our effort. يعني بما معناه بيساوي W over E. That's it. That's what mechanical advantage is. It is the ratio of load to effort, meaning in our case, MA is equal to 1400 over 50. And that will give us 28. All right, and that is our mechanical advantage, a value of 28. There is no unit because it's a ratio of newtons over newtons. So ratios usually have no unit. And the next thing they talk about is find VR. What do they mean by VR? VR is a velocity ratio. All right, اللي هو بما معناه how much velocity was put on the effort based on the distance and how much the velocity was put in for your load or has occurred to the load based on distance. And this is simply just a ratio of distance. It is going to be your effort's distance, so effort distance over the load distance. I believe this equation is already available also in the formula sheet. I'm not sure, but it is very simple. So in other words, in my notation, I usually call the effort distance SE, S as in distance, E for effort, and SW. All right. So in this case, we have our SW and our SE. Our SW is 0.2 and SE is 6. So VR is equal to SE, which was 6, over SW, which was 0.2. All right. And this will be 30. All right, so we found our mechanical advantage to be 28 and our velocity ratio to be 30. And the last thing they talk about is efficiency. So I'm pretty sure most of you know what efficiency is. Here specifically, they're talking about mechanical efficiency. And efficiency in any context, whether it's electrical, mechanical, or any other point, it always means it is the output over the input. زين يعني بما معناه how much output we have over how much input is being provided multiplied by 100. All right, this is what efficiency is. In the case of mechanical efficiency over here, the way you get it is a very simple equation where you just divide your mechanical advantage by your velocity ratio. And that's it. And that's your efficiency. You just multiply that by 100. So if you notice, your velocity ratio should always be larger than your mechanical advantage because there is nothing that has 100% efficiency in reality. But ideally, if you have your VR equal to MA, that means you have 100% efficiency because this will be 1 times 100, so it's 100% efficiency. فهني في هالسؤال, it is simply just, so efficiency is equal to MA over VR, which is 28 over 30, which is times 100, which is going to be equal to 93.33% efficiency. And that's basically it, okay? One thing I want to just add as an extra note about these two, MA, all right, our mechanical advantage, it varies, all right? يعني it is not a fixed value for the system. It varies depending on the load. So it depends on how much the load is, يعني how much the load that we are trying to move, this W factor, it depends on that. So the MA is not consistent or not a constant value in our system, but our VR is fixed for a specific machine. معناته for this specific machine, whatever design of this machine is, whatever type of machine this is, this lifting machine, our VR is always the same and it will not change. يعني it will be 30 no matter the type of load, no matter the type of effort that is being put. All right? And that is simply it for how to find mechanical advantage and how to find your velocity ratio and how to find your efficiency when you have both. Let's look at the next question, which is this one over here. Again, it requires the same exact things. It gives you the exact same, it has the same requirements, same question. Simple lifting machine with a load of 5 kilonewtons. So you have a load of 5 kilonewtons. This basically means you have 5,000 newtons, all right? Just make sure you are converting your kilo into newtons. Lifted by an effort of 45 newtons. And طبعا, your effort will always be a number less than your load. While the load moves up by, so the load is moving, SW is moving 30 millimeters, meaning this is 0.03 meters, all right? Make sure you're always converting your units to meters in case of distance and to newtons in case of force or load. The effort moves through 4 meters, so E, or SE, is equal to 4 meters. Then calculate MA, VR, and everything as well. Again, simply MR is equal to our mechanical advantage, MA, is going to be equal to W over E, which is 5,000 over 45. And our velocity ratio is going to be SE over W. So they're opposites, all right? So for MA, you're going to be putting the load over effort. For VR, you're putting the distance of the effort over the load. And it should always be a number where your effort is always going to be larger than your load when it comes to their distances, and vice versa. Your load value is always going to be larger than your effort value. So these values should always be a value greater than 1. They can't be decimal. No, if you do that, معناته you have mixed them up or flipped them around. Yeah, and this will be SE over SW, which is 4 meters over 0.03. This will give you 111.11, and this will give you 133.33. And now if you want to find efficiency, this is simply MA over VR, which is equal to 111.11 over 133.33 times 100. Of course, it's times 100 for percentage. It will give you 83.33%. Very simple concept, and that's pretty much all of what you're going to do, but there will be some differences here and there when solving. All right. Slow down, please. Then, no worries. I will try to take it a bit slower for the next concept because we're going to be applying the same thing again. All right. So, هني عندنا هالسؤال for question 3. هني يقول لكم السؤال a machine lifts a load of 400 newtons. شو معناته a load of 400 newtons؟ معناته our W is equal to 400 newtons. All right. By an effort E of 60 newtons. It also lifts a load of 600 newtons, so let's call this W1 and E1. It lifts another load too by 600 newtons, or a load of 600 newtons, by an effort of E2 يساوي 80 newtons. Find law of machine. شو معناته law of machine? Law of machine is a linear equation. Law of machine, it is a linear equation in the form of E is equal to AW plus B. إذا تشوفون, this equation is similar to your linear line equation, which is y equal mx plus b. If anything, it is exactly the same equation as this, and all you need to find is your slope m, which is your value a, and your b, which is your y-intercept, and it is b over here. So it will be in terms of E and W, and you just need to find your values of A and B. How do you do that? The way you do this for a linear equation, you are given 2 points. عندكم E1 W1 وعندكم E2 W2. So we're going to form two equations using this law of machine. For E1, it is 60 is equal to A times W1 اللي هو 400 plus B. This is our first equation. Our second equation is going to be for the second set of points اللي هو E2 and W2. معناته you have 80 is equal to A into 600 plus B. All right. These formulas are given. Yes, I believe they are given. I have seen them in the formula sheet. I don't know which ones are given and which ones are not. I believe this one is given, and the MA and VR and efficiency equations are also given. We'll double check that after, no worries. And then, for now, we have gotten now two equations with two unknowns, which is A and B. So you have a simultaneous equation. Okay. So how do you solve a simultaneous equation? Let's simplify these two equations first. فخلنا نكتب ال A will be on the left side, so we're going to have 400A plus B is equal to 60, and the second equation is 600A plus B is equal to 80. All I did was I just moved this to the left. ما سويت ولا شيء ثاني. إنزين. So how can you solve simultaneous equation? You can use a calculator, modify 1, and you will instantly do it. But I will solve it one time using the simultaneous equation method. There are a lot of different ways you can do this, either through elimination or substitution. In this case, it is always faster to do elimination because you will always have 1b and 1b over here. شو بتسوون؟ بتسوون the first equation minus the second equation. What will that look like? So you're going to be doing 400A minus 600A. And then B minus B, which becomes 0. So plus B minus B, which is going to be 0. And then that's why we are doing subtraction. And then عشان we can just simplify and find A directly, is equal to, we have an equal sign, 60 minus 80. So if we simplify this, we will get negative 200A is equal to negative 20. So A is going to be equal to negative 20 over negative 200. All right. Which is simply equal to 1 over 10. Yeah, يعني it will be equal to 1 over 10 or 0.1. Okay. This is basically how you find A. Now, when you want to find B, if you want to find the value for B, all you do is you just plug in back into any of these equations the value of A. Tamam? That's all you have to do. Just solving a simultaneous equation over here. And then, so the way you're gonna do this is, let's say we take the first equation, 400. So we're plug back This is what we are doing right now. We're plugging back. So 400 times A اللي هو 0.1 plus B is equal to 60. And then you solve this equation for B. So B is going to be equal to 60 minus 400 times 0.1, which is just 40. So we find our B value is equal to 20. And then I'm only going to do this one time. I don't know if they want you to show your work, to be honest, or not for a simultaneous equation. Just in case they do, just familiarize yourself مع هالmethod. Otherwise, you can double check using mode 5.1 directly, and it will give you the value of A and B, and I will show how that works in the next question, okay? So now we have found our values for A and B. A is 0.1 and B is 20. تمام? All we have to do now is plug these back into our main equation over here. فبيستوي E is equal to A, which is 0.1, W plus B, which is 20, and this is your equation, a law of machine equation, all right? Or just the law of machine. تمام? Very straightforward. I hope this didn't confuse anyone. This is just simple mathematics, يعني simple algebra. All right. All you need to know is the law of machine is AW plus B. E is equal to AW plus B. Let's look at the next question. All right. So this question over here states, in a lifting machine, of load 10 kilonewtons. In a lifting machine of a load of 10 kilonewtons. So let's say W1 is equal to 10 kilonewtons, معناته 10,000 newtons. All right. Is raised by an effort of 300. E1 is 300 newtons. It lifts 20 kilonewtons, معناته your load 2, W2 is 20 kilonewton, اللي هو 20,000 newtons, by an effort of 550 newtons. تمام? So it asks for the first one to find the law of the machine. So for law of machine was E is equal to AX plus B. Remember, by the way, A, this is the value of your slope. زين? The slope M in an equation of a line, of a linear equation يعني. All right? This is simply just the equation of a line. Inshallah, I will graph this one so you guys also see how it looks like. No worries. So E is equal to AX plus B. How do we do it? Again, we have to form two equations. So the first equation is for W1 and E1. So E1 is 300. Then all I am doing is I'm rewriting this equation, but I'm substituting E. This is not X, this is W. And then I am substituting E and W for the values of E1 and W1 for the first equation. That's all I am doing. So A times W1, which is 10,000 newtons. Make sure you are plugging in your numbers in newtons, not in kilonewtons. وثاني واحد بيكون 550 يساوي A into 20,000, your W2 plus B. All right. So if we rearrange these equations just to make them a bit more neat and easier to solve, we're going to have 10,000 A plus B is equal to 300, and 20,000 A plus B is equal to 550. Tamam? If you want to use mode 5.1, let me go through the methods of mode 5.1. So using mode 5.1, all right? You hit mode 5.1 in your calculator, you're going to get some box or array like this, where you have 1 and 2 over here, and you have A, B, C, and the array is closed. So this is your A value over here. This is your A, this is your B, and this is your C, okay? So the A value here is 10,000, which is your A value over here. And for this one, it's 20,000. And your B value is 1, all right? So you have a B value of 1 here. And it's 1 times B. It's just the coefficients. So your B value is going to be 1, and you're going to be putting them here. And then your C value It's simply just these two values which you will be plugging in here. All right. So for A in your calculator, you're going to be putting 10,000 over here. But in B, you're going to be putting 1. And for C, you're going to be putting 300. This is going to be 20,000 for the second row, which is basically your second equation. 1 for B and 550 for C. You hit equal and you will get, so let me do that with you guys, 10,000, 1, 300, 20,000, 1, 550. So you will get X equal 1 over 40 or 0.025 and Y is equal to 50. All right. So basically, what does this mean in the calculator? It means the first value you have, which is A in this case, make sure you're ordering the A on top of each other and the B on top of each other. زين؟ فمعناتها the first value A is your X value. So this is A is equal to 0.025 and B is equal to 50, your second value that is over here. And this is how you would solve it using a calculator. All right. So once you get your A and B values, now you can draw or write your equation, your law of a machine. E is equal to A, which is 0.025 W plus 50. Okay. And this question, it doesn't request for me to draw this, but let me show you how you would draw such an equation. Then there is a question in the exam or in the mock that we'll look over as well that asks you to draw. So let me cover the concept right now. فإحنا هني عندنا in our x-axis is going to be our W, our load in newtons, and our y-axis is going to be our effort in newtons. And then just similar to the equation, remember this is simply y equal mx plus b. And then, so your y is your E, and your x is your W, and your 0.025 is your slope. All right. So how would you plot this? My recommendation, the first thing you plot is you write W, when W is equal to 0, and you plug in 0 over here, you're going to get E is equal to 50. Or in other words, it is your intercept, your y-intercept over here, and then, which is your B value, which is also here. And then this is known as your y-intercept. شو يعني y-intercept؟ معناته the point that is intersecting the y-axis. This is what the y-intercept is. زين y-intercept means when x is equal to 0, or in this case w is equal to 0. All right. So this point over here is 50. This is our first point. The second point, you can take any point from these two. يعني remember, this is your first point, E1, W1, and this is your second point. My recommendation, you go for the smaller point of E, عشان, you have a limited size graph. So let's go for when E1 is 300 newtons. So if we said this is 50, 100, 150, 200, 300, let's say, and then it's not to scale, but let's say that this is 300 for the graph, right? طبعا you're gonna have to count them all, count the graphs and count the bars and make sure your dimensions is a bit more to scale. So this is not a point actually, this is just your y value. زين? Your y value. What is your x or your w value? At 300 we have 10,000 newtons. فمعناته w, let's say that each one here we say that this is 2,500, this is 5,000, this is 7,500, and this is your 10,000 over here, for example. All right. So the point will be over here, which is basically between your 300 point and your 1,000 point. And that's it. And then you will just draw a line between your 2 points, and that is your line of machine. It will always be a positive slope, and it will always look something like this. It will always start above the 0 line on the y-axis, and this is your law of machine. All right. An additional thing you need to know is you will always have a slope, and you can write your slope over here as the value of m. This is your slope. All right. So slope is equal to 0.025, or the value of a. All right. This is what your slope is. So the slope is this value a over here, which is also known as m in the general equation. This is going to be the value of your slope. And sometimes it is preferred to write on the graph the equation of the line. So you can either write it as y is equal to 0.025, but since we are dealing with E, it's E 0.025 W plus 50. All right. If you would want to draw a neat graph, this is what it will look like. What is most important is plotting your two main points. Once you do that, it is easy moving on. All right. So moving on to the next part of this question. Again, this wasn't asked in the question, but I just wanted to show you how the graph would look like. The second part says find your maximum machining شنو? Your MA. I forgot what MA was. Mechanical advantage. Okay. You find your maximum mechanical advantage. So they want the max mechanical advantage. And I saw this equation also in your formula sheet. It is 1 over M, which is basically, in our case, 1 over A, where this is the value of your slope. All right, so this is just your slope value. Okay, whatever the slope that we got over here, the slope over here, this value of slope, this is your M or your A. And that's how you can find your MA max. So MA max for any system, it's going to be 1 over the slope, and our slope is 0.025. Therefore, our MA max is equal to 1 divided by 0.025, which is 40. So this value 40 is the maximum possible machine. I don't know why I keep saying machine allowance. Mechanical advantage, and then this is your maximum mechanical advantage that you can have for your entire system, no matter what effort or no matter what force that you have. All right. So it is just 1 over the slope. Now, let's look at the next part. So the max efficiency given VR is equal to 50. So part 3, they want you to find efficiency. Remember that efficiency is simply MA over VR. So maximum efficiency is going to be maximum MA over VR. There is no maximum VR. VR is dependent on the system. It's the same value. ما يتغير. إنزين? So the VR is the same for the entire system. It will never change. So it's just the value they gave us, and they said that VR is equal to 50. We have found our maximum VA to be 40. So we can say that efficiency max is equal to 40 over 50, which is times 100, of course. I always forget the times 100, times 100, times 100, because we're talking about efficiency, which is 80%. All right, that's it. That's pretty much it for maximum efficiency and for the law of machine. Let's look at the next question. So in the next question, what they did is they gave you a table, which is exactly the same thing. And they requested you to find the exact same value again. So I'm just going to go very quickly through it. All right. So here they say the following table shows observations on certain machine. Make sure both of them are newtons in this case. معناته the values, their units are correct. So your load W1, you could say, is equal to 100 and W2 is equal to 200. E1 is equal to 10 and E2 is equal to 14. And then you solve exactly like we have solved earlier. All right. The exact same way. Yes, I am sure about the formula for max n. Okay, maximum efficiency is the same as just the formula for efficiency. All right, efficiency is always MA over VR. Tamam. For maximum efficiency, all you're going to be putting, you have to have the largest value of MA. Yani, in other words, the maximum value of MA. And VR does not change in your system. So you'll be using maximum MA divided by VR. All right. Back to this question. So W1 and W2 was given, E1, E2 is given. They want us to find law of machine. So it is going to be law of machine is E is equal to AW plus B. Again, we're going to form our two equations. And then equation 1 is for E1 and W1. So it's 10 is equal to 100A plus B. And the second one is 14 equal to 200A plus B. Don't get confused. I just multiplied directly instead of putting W after A. I put it before. And then you can use mod 5.1 over here. You're going to find that the value for A is going to be equal to 0.04 and the value of B is equal to 6. All right, using mod 5.1, using simultaneous equation, whichever way, you find your E and A and B. So E is equal to 0.04 W plus B, which is 6. Again, I want to mention this very importantly. This is your slope, all right? The slope, sometimes they mention it as the letter M because in a general equation of a line, your slope is mx plus b, all right? So this is how it's usually written. So do not confuse this m with something else. This m is this slope. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with MA. It doesn't have to do anything with any other m or mass or anything. It's just the slope. Tamam? It's just the slope of the equation. So the next part, they say find maximum MA. So maximum MA is equal to 1 over the slope, or you could say 1 over the value we found for A, which is equal to 1 over 0.04. So our MA max, our maximum yani MA, is going to be equal to 225. Okay? 1 over maximum AVR. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yani if the slope, oh, you mean يعني the way you solve this? There are two different ways to solve it, but this I believe is the faster or simpler way without getting too confused. You just plug in values and do mod 5.1 and you will get your answer, and that's pretty much it. And then I believe there is a different way where you're dividing 1 over MA to find your or you're doing basically you're finding the slope. You're going to do W2 minus W1, E2 minus E1, divide them on top of each other, and that's going to be your MA, and then you're going to do 1 over, which is also correct, yani. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I prefer using this method as it is less messy. And then let's look at the next and last question. Okay. So here the following table gives load and effort relation for a simple machine. Again, same thing. First thing you check, they're both in newtons. All right, perfect. No conversion required. Now that you know they're both in newtons, you can say this is your W1 and this is your W2. This is your E1 and this is your E2. Very simple, very straightforward. Find the law of machine. Again, law of machine is E is equal to A W plus B. You're going to write your two equations. So for the first one, it's 150 is equal to 1000 A plus B. Your second equation is 200, which is equal to 1800 A plus B. Okay? Once you find these two equations, very simply, you find your A value and your B value. You're going to find that your A value is equal to 0.0625. And your B value is 87.5. Tamam? And then that's it. You just plug it back into your equation. So this is going to be your law of machine, 0.0625, which is your slope, times W, plus 87.5. And that's it. And now the next part of the question, they say, find the effort to lift a load of 5 kilonewtons. What does this mean? Since we have our equation now, we can have any value of effort or any value for load and find the other in an easy way by just plugging into the equation. So now they give us find the effort. So we need to find the new E. We'll call it E3. Right? We need to find E3 when W3 is 5 kilonewtons. So W3 is equal to 5 kilonewtons. Again, convert into newtons, so it's 5,000 newtons. And we just plug it back into this equation over here. So we'll get E3 is equal to 0.0625 times W3, let me actually write it down, times W3 plus 87.5. 0.5. معناتها E3 is equal to 0.0625 times 5,000 plus 87.5. Put this into the calculator, you'll find that E3 is equal to 400 newtons. All right. So whenever they give you an effort or a load, it doesn't matter what they give you. Once you have your law of machine, you can plug in any value for E and find the respective load for it. And for any load given, you can find the respective effort for it. And that's pretty much it. This is all of law of machine. This is all the concepts that you will see. Does anyone have any questions about this? Is this clear for everyone? عشان نختمها هني if no one has any questions. Is it okay? Is it good?